Markets have a memory longer than ours. They remember decisions made in smoke-filled rooms, contracts signed in whispers, and promises never meant to be kept. Every object around you, your phone, your laptop, even the light above your head, carries a silent countdown, ticking away long before it ever reaches your hands. This is not the sound of progress. It's the sound of design. What if failure isn't an accident, but the business model itself? Planned obsolescence is not a brand. It doesn't have a logo, a headquarters, or a CEO. Yet it quietly governs some of the most powerful industries on Earth. From consumer electronics to household appliances, from software ecosystems to industrial manufacturing, modern capitalism runs on a simple assumption: things must not last. The global consumer goods economy, worth tens of trillions of dollars, depends not on durability but on replacement, not on permanence but on repeat purchases. Light bulbs, smartphones, printers, headphones, washing machines, these aren't just products. They are revenue cycles, carefully engineered timelines of use, decay, frustration, and renewal. On the surface, this looks like innovation. New models, faster chips, sleeker designs. But beneath the marketing language and launch events lies a quieter logic, one rooted not in engineering limits, but in financial necessity. Because an economy built on infinite growth cannot survive products built to last forever. To understand how this logic became normalized, how failure was redesigned from flaw into feature, we have to go back. Back before software updates. Back before plastic seals and glued components. Back to a time when a light bulb could burn for decades, and that simple fact terrified the people in power. In the early 20th century, light was a miracle. Electricity had only recently escaped laboratories and factories, spilling into streets, homes, and human imagination. Light bulbs were symbols of progress, of mastery over darkness itself. And technically, they were getting better, fast. By the 1910s, manufacturers had already learned how to make bulbs that could last 2,500 hours or more. Thicker filaments, lower operating temperatures, conservative designs. From an engineering perspective, durability was not a challenge, it was a choice. But the market had a problem. A light bulb that rarely burned out was a commercial disaster. Once every home was lit, demand slowed. Warehouses filled. Factories faced idle machines. Shareholders saw flat lines instead of growth. In December 1924 in Geneva, a quiet solution emerged. Executives from Osram, Germany, General Electric, United States, and Philips, Netherlands, the dominant forces of the global lighting industry, met behind closed doors. Officially, it was about standardization. In reality, it was about control. They formed what history would later call the Phoebus Cartel. The agreement was simple, precise, and chilling. Every member would limit the lifespan of their bulbs to exactly 1,000 hours. Not approximately. Not on average. Exactly. Testing labs were established to measure bulb longevity. If a company's bulbs lasted too long, it was fined. Not for defects, not for safety, but for excellence. For the first time in recorded business history, a corporation could be punished for making a product that was too good. A blueprint had been quietly finalized, one that redefined success not as quality but as predictability, not as durability but as controlled decay. And once this architecture existed, it never disappeared. The Phoebus Cartel didn't just standardize light bulbs. It standardized an idea that an industry could quietly agree on limits, that longevity could be treated as a threat. That control, not innovation, was the safest path to profit. Although the cartel officially dissolved in the late 1930s, pressured by antitrust laws and the approach of World War II, its logic survived. It migrated, it adapted, it learned to hide. Then came the Great Depression. Factories stood silent. Unemployment spread like a shadow across continents. Demand collapsed, not because people didn't need goods, but because they already owned them. Durable goods, once celebrated, became economic obstacles. In 1932, an American real estate broker named Bernard London proposed something radical. He gave it a name: planned obsolescence. London argued that products should be legally assigned an expiration date. Once that date passed, the item would be destroyed and replaced. Harsh? Yes, but in his view, it is necessary. Because if products never broke, factories would never reopen, jobs would never return. The economy, he warned, would suffocate under its own efficiency. The idea was never written into law. But it didn't need to be. By the post-war boom of the 1950s, planned obsolescence had gone mainstream, rebranded as progress. Annual model changes, cosmetic redesigns, minor upgrades sold as revolutions. Not growth through need, but growth through dissatisfaction. And as industries consolidated, power shifted away from engineers and toward finance departments. Decisions about lifespan were no longer technical, they were strategic, spreadsheet-driven, optimized. Durability became negotiable. Repairability became inconvenient. And replacement became inevitable. By the time digital technology arrived, the system was already perfected. Software didn't just improve products, it gave corporations remote control over them. A light bulb had once been fine for lasting too long. Now, a device could be slowed, limited, or disabled without touching the hardware at all. The countdown had gone invisible. Modern planned obsolescence rarely announces itself. It hides behind updates, design choices, and unexpected limitations, quiet levers pulled far from the consumer's sight. Take software throttling. In 2017, Apple confirmed what millions of users had already felt. Older iPhones were being deliberately slowed through software updates as their batteries aged. The official explanation was stability. The economic effect was unmistakable. Slower phones pushed upgrades. Upgrades drove revenue, a hidden engine of profit activated with a line of code. Then there are printers. Many consumer printers contain internal page counters, digital hourglasses. After a preset number of prints, the machine simply stops working, not because the motor failed, not because the circuitry burned out, but because the counter reached zero. Perfectly functional hardware rendered useless by design. And then there's glue. Early consumer electronics were built with screws, inviting repair. Modern devices are sealed with industrial adhesives, fused frames, proprietary tools. A cracked battery that costs $10 to replace becomes a reason to spend $1,000. Repair shifts from option to obstacle. Each of these mechanisms shares the same logic. Failure is engineered to be cheaper than repair. Not by accident, by design. The most powerful feature isn't speed, or elegance, or performance. It's inevitable. An invisible margin, quietly compounding across billions of devices, year after year. Every economic system eventually leaves fingerprints on people. Planned obsolescence doesn't just shape products, it shapes behavior. It trains consumers to expect disappointment, to normalize decay, to accept replacement as routine rather than question design. A phone that slows feels personal. A printer that fails feels random. But collectively, these moments create a culture of dependency, on upgrades, on credit, on constant consumption. Workers feel it too. Jobs become tied not to craftsmanship, but to churn. Skills shift from building things that endure to managing cycles of release and recall. Stability becomes fragile because it depends on perpetual dissatisfaction. And yet the irony remains. In Livermore, California, a single light bulb has been burning since 1901. Over 120 years of uninterrupted light. No updates, no planned failure, just proof. The Centennial bulb is the smoking gun. It proves that durability is not a technological fantasy. It's a financial inconvenience. Every paycheck carries this history. Every purchase echoes, a decision made long before the consumer ever had a choice. There are no clear villains here. No single hero. Only systems, complex, efficient, and quietly indifferent. And the question they leave us with is uncomfortable. If things were built to last, what would the economy become? The story of planned obsolescence is not about light bulbs or phones or printers. It's about incentives. From a secret meeting in Geneva in 1924 to software updates pushed overnight, the logic has remained consistent. Predictable failure is more profitable than lasting success. The Phoebus Cartel is gone, but its blueprint survived. Today, products don't break because they must. They break because the system requires motion, constant buying, constant upgrading, constant replacement to stay alive. And that leaves us with a choice worth thinking about. Is planned obsolescence a necessary evil, fuel for jobs, growth, and economic stability? Or is it simply the most elegant form of corporate control ever invented? That answer isn't settled. It's unfolding with every purchase you make. If this story made you see everyday objects differently, share your thoughts below. Join the conversation. Subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden systems shaping money, power, and profit. Because the most important countdown is the one we decide to stop believing in.